Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we watch an anime. We come back to this podcast and we talk about it. We turn our discussion over to you because we are three idiots, thus the name of the podcast. We work in a book club style format. We do a lot of recap, a lot of spoilers, a lot of characters, but we will give you a spoiler warning. We are talking about the second half of the anime Blue Lock, a soccer anime, which is, if you listen to us at all, we are not a sports anime group, despite my reservations. So we watched the soccer anime. We're on the second half. It's episodes 13 through 24. There will eventually be spoilers for the part 1. There will eventually be spoilers for the part 2. But before we get there, I need to introduce my co-host. First off, we have the Eeyore to my Winnie the Pooh. It's Jeremy. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm trying to think of an anime.
He's about to tell you an anime of his taste or against his taste, so you know when he reviews Blue Lock whether you want to listen to him or not.
Let's go with... No, I did that one before. Don't do it again.
Yeah, right?
But no, it just keeps happening.
We're going to run out of anime.
I know.
I like 5 of them.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's go with a shonen. A shonen that like Hunter x Hunter. Yeah. So that's an interesting shonen where you have some team battles and it's good.
Or is it Hunter x Hunter?
I thought the X is not pronounced, but I'm not.
It's not Spy
sure.
X Family. Never mind.
Actually,
exactly.
There's a big argument about that. So I'm saying.
I know. That's why I brought it up.
Spike's Family.
Okay. We also have the donkey named Donkey to my Shrek. It's Jason. What's your anime?
Blosswriter.
Oh.
What?
Oh.
What do you say?
Blosswriter.
Yeah. I know. I've seen that. That is ringing a bell.
It's a 2000s anime.
Huh? Gonzo, Studio Gonzo.
It has a pretty good premise. I was jazzed to watch it. First couple episodes are pretty enticing, and then it gets bad real fast.
Are you trying to say something?
Keep that to myself.
So are you saying you liked it or didn't like it?
Yes.
Well, it got a score of 6.89 on my anime list.
I started out really
Jason.
liking it, and then by the end, I didn't like it.
The point of this segment is to show people either the kind of anime you like or the kind of anime you don't like. So when you're telling them whether you like Blue Lock or not, they know what their tastes align.
I was trying to pick an anime that was in theme with the anime that we just watched as far as my review
I
stuff.
realize what you were trying to do. I'm trying to tell you that's wrong. Don't do that. Not the point of what we're doing here.
We rehearsed this.
We're off to the races with another Baka episode. It's always like this for you new listeners. It never gets better.
Or does it?
Just stay tuned.
And my name is Troy, and I'm going to pick the sports anime Kaijo.
See, you just did it. You just did it. You
As
just
an
turned around and
anime
told
that I loved.
Right, but it's in theme with what we watched.
Yes, it is. It's the butt one.
It is the one. It's the one that Jeremy mentioned I should have picked last time.
Yes.
I can think of.
Missed opportunity.
Okay, to clarify, yes, it should be slightly in theme, but it doesn't have to be. But it's more about your taste. Like picking a sports anime to show them a sports anime you did like, or a sports anime, or hey, here's a sports anime everyone likes, but I didn't, to let you know that's my taste. So yeah, the theme helps, but it's about whether you liked it or not. And
Okay,
so
I did
being
like
kinda doesn't help a lot.
No, I did like the theme of Blosswriter. I just think the story took a nosedive. That's
I still have no idea what anime you're talking about. I even
It's
googled
cool
it.
looking.
it's
fine.
it's a very complicated story, so I'm not going to try and give you a
Okay.
synopsis. But
Yeah,
Kaiju,
it's
is
24
great.
episodes. Yeah.
Kaijo is about butts and boobs smashing each other
See?
for supremacy, and you know what? It has some great tournament arc, shonen style, and it takes itself not too seriously, which could help a certain other anime. Copyright. Get to the anime, they say. That I can hear them in the comments
Yeah.
right now. Get to
They're
the
looking
anime.
they're looking at the time right now.
All right, let's talk about second part of Blue Lock. Jeremy, this is your pick. What did you think?
Non-spoiler.
Non-spoilers.
It was all right. I kind of thought it became a little bit more. Again, I have only seen one other sports anime, and that was Kuroko's basketball. So when I say that I think it kind of became a little bit more generic, I'm kind of only operating based on that one experience, but perhaps generic in a sort of shonen way, right? And I was coming to this with the hope, and I think I probably made this pretty clear in the first episode that we recorded, in the hope that this was going to be a real like elimination bout where it was going to be about desperation. It was going to be about characters, just trying really hard to survive and cutting the throats of friends and foes alike just to get by. And while this second half definitely focused more on that, it still, to me, came across so much like other shonen that I've seen that I was disappointed. It's not where I was hoping it would go. It's not where I want to say it's not where I was led to believe it would go just because of the impression I got. But, that's on me. That's the impression I got. So, yeah, it was okay for what it was, a sports anime. It was okay.
It ended up being exactly what it said it was.
Yes. I was very disappointed by that. Why you got to be what you tell me you were?
All right, Jason, your thoughts.
I was also disappointed. I had a nice time with it, but it just kind of came down to, am I being entertained? And as it progressed, it was like we're doing the same thing over and over again, just in different team formations. And I'm still standing by, this isn't quite a sports anime yet. Like, sure, the theme is soccer, but like, there's been no proper sport done yet. So, but the problem is that we get to this point of, these aren't superheroes. They don't have magic powers. They're not aliens. Like, how many times can you evolve your weapons and your form? Like,
Yeah.
it's starting to not make a lot of sense. And also, no, I'll say that for spoiler area, but I'm a little like Jeremy. I'm a little disappointed at where it went, and this probably would have been better as not having a second season. Like, if they had just like, if they had tightened up those games and gave more time for like what they're going to do in the next season and then just ended it, it probably would have been a better anime.
Okay. For me, when we did our pre-show, like we have to decide do we like it or not, and I come down on the not. I'm very close on the fence, but for very much the reasons you guys have said, I enjoyed the plot points. I thought they did some interesting stuff and some unpredictable stuff, and I thought that was neat when those plot points happened. But getting through them, the formats of the soccer games in this half of the season felt like a slog, felt repetitive, like you mentioned, and I didn't find myself enjoying it, like just like you said, Jason. So, yeah, it didn't. I was hoping it would get better from where I was in our last half, and I just didn't really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we go to spoilers, opening and closing. Jeremy, I know Jeremy's super excited to talk about this.
I totally am. Okay, the first time that I saw the outro play, and then I was like, "What's he say?" what is he saying? And then
Literally
it, like,
the name of the
splayed-
song.
Yeah, it splayed across the screen in one of the like credit moments, and I'm like, numbness like a ginger. Okay. I did hear that. I have no idea what it means. I didn't look it up. I just laughed, and I think it's hysterical. And I love the song for that. It just cracks me up every time. The intro is also really good. I actually have that on Beat Saber, and I didn't know it came from this, which is really funny because the logo is actually like, two people kicking a soccer ball. So I should have known.
The song
But-
Judgment, right?
Yeah, Judgment. Yep. So I like them both. They got a good beat to them. They got a good rhythm. Yeah.
And Jason?
They were good. Just I like the first season's OP better, or not first season, but first half.
I thought you didn't really like it.
I thought it was okay. Like, I wasn't hooked on it, but the visuals were good and the music was good.
Okay.
Visuals are good this time as well, but they're a little. The first half was like, hey, we have an interesting anime to show you, and the second half is, hey, we're just slipping into shonen, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So like the first half, I had mentioned like that guitar riff gives me that feeling of dread, right? Every time it starts playing. This one, I agree. It's a good OP for a shonen for getting you fired up. Like, here we go, it's gonna be action, and I enjoyed it for that. But that whole feeling that we had been exploring in the first half is gone. It's like, this is a sports action anime. Get ready. And I did like the song, and even Numbness Like a Ginger, which definitely could use some context, but all the other words are in Japanese.
Yeah, I know. That's what got me so much.
It has it has a kind of a cool lo-fi hip hop vibe going to it. I could jam to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. One last thing before we go to our spoiler section. Last thing, I promise. Our next anime is going to be the part 2 of Spy X Family, Spy Family, Spike's Family, whatever you want to call it. So we have already watched part 1 a while ago. They were not back to back like most cores are. They were separated. It is 13 episodes on my anime list. They're numbered 1 through 13. It's technically the same part of the season, but this is like just a part 2. So we'll just call it Spy Family Part 2, and that's what we'll be watching.
Did anime always split in like cores, or did that happen when they started having to release them separately?
I think it always was, but because of our format, because like if you watch Dragon Ball and you look for it, you can kind of tell where the cores are. I always felt, whereas like the seasons, especially like if you buy the DVDs and stuff, is like this is a weird place for it to break for a season, but then you look at the core breaks and it's like, oh, that makes a little more sense of why they would stop here.
I've never even heard of it until we started seeing them more recently.
Okay, now for real, spoiler warning. We are going to do spoilers. Again, there'll also be spoilers for part 1. You can go back and listen to our last podcast to know what happened if you haven't watched it. That would be a great thing to do. Maybe do it even if you've already listened to it. Numbers matter to some people. But no, we're going to be spoiling everything about part 2 and again, part 1. So here we go. Spoiler warning's been dropped. All right, guys. We're still in Blue Lock. We're starting the second phase. It's a 3-on-3 match, and we ended with our main character Isagi having Nagi, who was an enemy, and Bakura, who's the crazy dribbler, on his team, and they're going to challenge the top 3 players of the second phase. But let's talk about these characters. Our first up is Isagi, our main character, limitless potential. What do you think of him?
Isn't it Isagi? But anyways.
How dare you, sir? Bahumit.
That's right.
That's called a callback.
It's been a while.
Man, that's reaching.
Yeah.
I still like him. I think I started to like him less as this core went on, But I like his arc of going, I'm not the best physically. I'm not the tallest. I'm not the fastest. But what I do have is brains and eyes and reasoning deduction. And I think that can be the most powerful weapon on any sports team, let alone soccer. Which, it makes for a really cool, interesting storyline. Problem is that they give him a lot of the same anime tropes that they do for a lot of different hero arcs. And because of that, he's got this split personality that just doesn't make sense, where on the one hand, he's like, I'm talking about the corpses I'm trampling upon to get higher.
Uh-huh.
And then on the other end is like, oh, I'm rooting for you. You're doing so great. Hey, let's work as a team. And it's like, you are a contradiction in persona. So it's like, I started to get pretty tired of it as the season went on. But as a whole, he's good. I like, and I think I like him more in concept than I do how he played out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like him as a vehicle for his ability, and that's kind of it. Like he's fine as a character, but his ability is really interesting. That it's used in a lot of anime where my power, or maybe not even just a lot of anime, but here's a real old callback to the series called Heroes. Remember that? Right? With Sylar. It's not an anime, but oh, come on. You've got
The Save the Cheerleader, Save the World.
yes.
For
Yes,
some
way
reason, I went
callback.
to cartoon and I could not find it. But,
Okay, yeah.
cartoon.
Yeah.
Regular show.
And how like the main savior of all the good guys basically has a very similar power where it's like, I'm going to get the power that the other good guys have and the bad guys have. I'll just absorb it and gain that ability. So like this adaptive power that he has is one it's not new. It's been around, but it's really
He's all
cool.
for one.
Yes, exactly. There you go. My Hero Academia. That's a better reference, especially for our audience. but 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 yeah, it's still a really cool ability, and I like seeing how they play with it. But I do have a minor criticism of it, and that is, like you mentioned, Jason, he does not have the physique, the physical abilities of a lot of the people that he's observing. In the anime, I mean, it even goes as far as to like measure out, oh, this person's jump height is this high, and his jump height's only this high, right? So it's very clear that these differences are measurable and distinct, and he is having a horrible time trying to catch up. And in some ways, he may never catch up. And so some of the abilities that he's copying, I think, rely on more physical ability than he's actually got. So, for instance, there's one ability where it requires you to not just see and think and predict blind spots, but you actually have to be able to move faster than the person that you're observing and everybody else and the things that are going on in order to take advantage of what you're seeing. Because just because you've got the mind and the eyes to spot it doesn't mean you have the body to take advantage of it. But he does, anyways, consistently over and over and over again against superior athletes. And so I'm like, okay, you can only take this adaptive thing so far, right? Like, so I have a little bit of criticism for that. But I still enjoyed it. It was still entertaining to watch him make use of those powers. So
One big criticism that is not particularly relevant to our conversation that I have to get off my chest. In the first half, we didn't get, I don't know if we got any overhead shots. And if we did, they were done
is it
well.
the 3D?
In
You're
this
talking about
one, I've like every time they did an overhead shot, I thought I was watching Overlord season 3 and like watching the armies. Got like
Yeah.
the CG
It's so
was
bad.
just so bad.
No, they did it in the first half as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't notice it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was painful. Yeah, but back to Isagi. Yeah, he's fine for those reasons. Isagi.
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 He's right.
Yeah. But there's definitely other characters I prefer over him.
I had more of a problem for the same reasons. Like, even his power of the planning, the predicting, the field of vision was great for a mid passer. Like,
Yeah.
who cares if a striker can do that?
He'd
That's
be
how-
a phenomenal center.
Right. Well, and
Yeah.
like, there's a character that keeps being hinted at, the brother, right? Who's the great passer. And it's like, that sounds like a great ability for that position. Do you really think you're going to be controlling people as a striker when you're like the only striker on the team? Like right now, you're manipulating other strikers. That's great. It kind of comes back to issues I had with part one of like, this plan isn't super good because they're not playing against real goalies in the beginning, and this was another one that just came up. I'm like, when he's on a full team, he's not going to be manipulating center field or defenders of his own team. That's going to be happening by them. So this seems like a weak ability when it matters. And then, like you said, he's like, I will devour their playing styles. Their playing styles require twice the muscles you have, man, or long legs, or some stuff you just can't physically do. That's and then he's
The
a
best
super
one
nice
he
guy.
devoured. The best one he devoured was the getting behind. Like that is something that he was not only able to do, but with his predictive ability, be able to know who to go behind. That was decent. But I'm gonna devour dribbling, or I'm gonna devour speed. It's like, no, you're not.
Yep.
Off the ball movement bugged me. Like, oh, I gotta do off the ball movement. Yeah, you weren't going to nationals, man. that seems
you
like
didn't
that should
understand
have
this
been
already.
basic soccer training
Yep.
from a guy who knows very little about soccer. And I have to use basketball mostly because that's the sport that I have any chance of being able to teach. I watch football, I play basketball. That's the two sports I know. But yeah, so and then his old like, I'm a super nice guy, but I'm actually super competitive, but actually I'm crying every time I lose. I was like, I don't care what happens to you. There's better characters here.
Yep.
Sorry. All right. Then the other guy on his team, Nagi, the lazy genius. Thoughts on Nagi?
He almost turned into a background character. Like he was one of the main focus in the last half of the first half. And it didn't seem like he had much of an awakening or like much of a power growth. And I don't know. Like I would have liked to see more of him because his story arc was interesting. Like this savant at basketball that didn't, or soccer that just did not care. And then, Isagi fires him up. And now he's, looking for the strongest opponents. That theme didn't seem to continue past like episode 20. And then all of a sudden he's not on a team with Isagi anymore. And it's like, okay, where'd you go?
Yeah. I think this guy had a lot of potential, the way that they introduced him. He did still, at least for me, his plays were kind of interesting. Like there were a couple where he did like a double kick and some interesting moves to observe, because a lot of the other characters were just like, hey, I kicked it in really hard from over here instead of over there. And, okay, that's cool. But this guy actually does some neat acrobatics that make it interesting to watch. But his character development, like he shifted so hard from this, like you were saying, Jason, like I don't care about anything and I'm lazy and I'm just amazingly good at everything, which as much as it's like kind of an annoying archetype for me, I'm not super fond of it. It's more interesting than like, hey, now I'm here to support you and be where you need me to be when you got to pass the ball. And I'm just here to make sure you win, Isagi. Even though I may spout that I want to win, I'm really just here to make sure you win. and I'm gonna trust you. And if you say, "Hey, we're gonna win this," I'm 100% on board. I know you're gonna win. I'd never doubt you. It's just, I don't know. He felt really generic at that point.
I think it gave him a little bit of a hard time, but I almost agree with everything.
Yeah.
So I do like that kind of arc, and I was super into his character arc. But once it happens, he doesn't matter. And normally in a story, when a character arcs early, but the story's got to keep going, they die. That happens a lot. You'll notice that characters who die early are usually because they arced early, and they don't have a purpose to the story anymore. So they either need to have a way for them to exit, and quickest way is usually, oh, they died. Then you have your heroes have more motivation, right?
Mhm.
But instead, he just lingers. He's just there, and he's doing crazy cool touches, which are cool.
Mhm.
So like I really liked what they did with them, but once they did it, and I think that's also the reason why he has to go off on his own team. He's a written off character at this point.
He's done.
He's done. But I did like the arc. I don't care about soccer, so now I'm fired up and I want to compete and I love this game. Cool. But there's nothing more
Bye.
for you to do. Yeah, Bye-bye. Sorry, in storytelling, after you arc, unless you're going to start affecting other people around you, like Isagi is doing, you don't matter. I'm being harsh tonight. I don't mean to. I thought you guys were going to be on the more positive side to balance me out. Okay. Next up is Baka. You guys' thoughts on Baka?
That's the blonde, like blunt bangs.
Crazy
right?
dribble has a monster
Yeah.
inside.
Oh, Bakura. Okay. Yeah.
Don't say like I pronounced it wrong. Oh, Bakura.
I really liked his arc, and I think he's one of the more standout characters. He's definitely not making it to any sort of finals as far as this competition. And again, he kind of falls into the same category as Isaki does. Like, you're a fantastic center or a left center. Like, you would, you would be the playmaker. But I think his most valuable contribution as far as storytelling is I loved this idea that I'm going to stop using crutches to get me to where I'm going and make myself feel better. I'm going to take control of my own life. And I really like that message. I think that not only is it cool in this story, but it's also like a really decent real life message. Like, I'm going to take control, and I don't need validation to feel good about myself. And so I liked the representation of the monster within. Like, that was really neat.
Yeah. He went and he found a solo RPG, tabletop RPG system. I liked the way that they expressed how he was doing that, and I liked how when he was going through the part of that arc where he was banishing the monster, basically, we kept seeing the monster would appear like behind everybody, and he's like, they're all saying, "Hey, pass to me," and the monster's like, "Yeah, pass." He's like, "No, I refuse to pass." And so he became an egotist and a maniac, just like everybody else. Like, that was the end of his arc, is to become, I must score. Like, when we're introduced to Baro, the king of soccer, the king of the field, right? He's this jerk that ignores everybody else because he's got to get the ball in. Only his scores matter. And the end of the arc for Bakira, that guy, is to basically become the same thing. And that kind of cracked me up, just because there's a bit of irony there in how the end result appears to be similar. But it was very well done, although it kind of seemed a bit abrupt to me, because we don't really have him questioning his monster very much until the scene where he has his arc. But that kind of happens with a lot of people where they evolve, and evolving happens instantaneously on the field, like over the span of a couple of minutes, maybe. Because we don't get a whole lot. We get a little bit of him, maybe moving towards that, but very little. But I really did like that he was being left behind. That was a cool problem for him, because I didn't, when we're first introduced to him, this guy is outdoing everybody else basically. Like, he's acrobatically kicking the ball around, flipping upside down and kicking the ball backwards, kicking people in the face, right? Like, he seems to be on a level above everybody else athletically. And he's kind of crazy, and yet he always succeeds. He always knows where to make the plays. And then to just be completely left behind by the two players that he thinks the most highly of. I thought that was good writing. That was interesting.
I really liked everything they did with him. I do worry that now that his arc is over, he's gonna fall into that same "you don't matter anymore." But I really love the way they set it up, because it's they're showing him, like, practicing with Rin. And he's like, "Who's it gonna be? Is it gonna be this new guy or a main character? Who's it gonna be?" And also the audience are like, "Oh, here comes the battle." And then he goes, "But what about me? I want to be the best." And that was a really cool. I didn't see an arc for him coming up. I just thought he was going to be kind of this character arc explainer for us, or he's waiting for the other characters to arc so he can choose what he wants to do. And then it suddenly becomes focused on him, and he's the center of this little storyline. And it was really cool. I also really loved his awakening. It was one that made sense to me, that the monster is his intuition, but instead of using his intuition, which he has the skills to back up, now he's pre-deciding what he wants to do using those same skills, and is able to do that. He doesn't need the monster to feed him. He's got it. He's got confidence in himself, and he doesn't need to pass anymore. Which is still a terrible message. Pass the ball. But yeah, this was one of the highlights of this half of the anime, I thought. All right, on the other team, I do want to call out Aoshi, the the super muscle mutant man who is just constantly in a state of pure anxiety and panic. And in the English dub, I don't know if I made up more than 5 words he says, because it's just screech. He never stops screeching, and I laughed every time. I'm like, I know he's saying something. He'll start with like, "Oh, the pencil's coming to me," and it's so good. So he was fun, and then Jubei, the glamour.
Yeah, Jubei.
He hates that name. Don't use that name.
That's right. He hates his name. What do they call him? Juju?
Glam. They call him Glam.
Just call him Glam.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
God, he was irritating.
The Glam joke.
I loved him.
It had. There's moments where I liked it, and there's moments where like, we get it.
Yeah.
We've overused this a little bit.
He's a cringe character, and that's what made him really funny.
Yes. But I did want to talk about the best player on their team, is the antagonist of this half, which is Rin. Your guys' thoughts on him? Oh my gosh! Pronounced football.
Football.
Anyone? Just talk about green-haired guy.
Okay.
No, just Rin.
just Rin.
Other guys were
okay.
just jokes. You can talk about them, but we want to talk about Rin right now.
Yeah. So Rin, he's just, I don't like him in the story. Like, he's just this constant, "You're trash, get out of my way. The only thing that matters to me is beating my brother. I'm so emo." Like, I don't know what to do with him. Like, and they tried to explain that he has a similar ability to Isagi, but like, we never see it from his point of view. so we only see the aftermath. Like all of a sudden, he's always there, or he's. I did like the free kick where he kicked the ball right over Isagi's head because he knew that Isagi would be in a state of indecision. That was decent writing, but I don't know, just something off-putting about how broody he is.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely ultra broody. You're not wrong there. To me, he was just again what I would expect from other shonen. Like this is uh the character that does not engage you or motivate you or intrigue you or anything, yet they're supposed to present some kind of mystery, right? They're supposed to make you wonder, boy, what is it between him and his brother that's got him so upset? I don't care.
Well, and then
It's
he
not
goes, "Oh, we
interesting.
actually have a really healthy relationship."
I know, right? Once I beat him, everything will be great. Everything will be fine. Okay. So like it's not engaging. His attitude, his personality is not engaging. But I usually don't find this kind of character engaging. It's almost like they're just there to be aloof and to provide an obstacle. That's it. And that's the extent of their character development. Is we need an obstacle to get in the way. They can be a cardboard cutout. It's totally fine. And it's even better if they're a duplicate of the protagonist so that we can really show off how the protagonist works against their own skills, you know? And so I don't know. I don't have a lot of great things to say about Rin. But I did watch Rick and Morty, and maybe Rin's motivation is motivation. Finding motivation. Sorry, I loved that. And it just seemed to fit here to me. It's so
stretchy.
inane. Like, the concept is so inane. And kind of so is this. Like, his concept is, it's not explored. It's not expressed. It's just, trust me, there's a reason.
Trust me, bro.
My issue with the character is that he's so tropey and stereotypical that he's already in this anime and done better. Because we already have Baro, who's like, I'm the best on this field and none of you are worth me. And then we have Rin, who's saying the exact same thing, but with like an aloof, I don't care, matter. I'm the best here and none of you matter.
Mm-hmm.
You're the second guy to say this. And then we meet all these other antagonists at the very final episode. And I kind of felt like we were just getting more of that. And I'm like,
yeah,
no, we get it. You think you're the best soccer player and no one deserves to play with you. Jesus Louises.
yeah.
And actually, that's the biggest problem I had with Glam character. Not so much that he was cringe, but that like it was very well established Chigiri could outpace everyone. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this guy's keeping up with him. It's like, is Superman as fast as the Flash? Like,
no, he's not fast. He has long legs.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say the same thing.
Different.
So different.
According to the anime, those are different.
Yeah.
Chigiri can outrun him, but if because he doesn't need to go as far as Chigiri, he can sometimes reach the ball first.
But not going as far means you're traveling over the distance faster.
Don't you science me.
Yeah, it didn't make sense, and I didn't like the idea that we were gonna have like these power matchups, because it's like, well, I guess the Flash doesn't matter because Superman's just as fast as him. Like, it's that kind of thinking, and it's just like same thing with Rin and Isagi. It's like, I'm not. It wasn't very interesting storytelling to have these competing weapons. It was much more interesting to watch. Hey, here's brute force guy. How is dribbling guy going to be able to get around him? Or here's speed guy. How am I going to be able to cut off his route because I can't run as fast as him? Like, those are interesting concepts.
I also feel like they're running out of powers or weapons.
That's my whole problem with this side.
Because when they fought the World 5, their powers are literally just the same but way scaled. But then we meet all these other characters, and yeah, there's I'm fast. Well, I'm accelerant. Well, I'm long legs. Okay, I can
Yeah.
jump really high. Okay, but I can jump strongly high.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so actually, speed like distance runner guy versus
Right.
burst speed guy. That was interesting because they weren't the same power,
Once.
and they had their
Yes.
exactly once. Well, we might get it again because he made it.
Yep.
Anyways,
How about the one brother can talk? Who saw that coming?
Well, if you watch the additional time,
I
we
did
saw
see
it coming.
that one was kind of funny.
Yep.
Okay, that was Rin. I think we've.
Hmm. Nobody likes Reen.
The game starts. Isagi's team is able to score first. But then Rin mocks them. Glam, he's able to steal and shoot. He wins. God, these games were so boring. They're just I score, you score, I score, you score, with exceptions. Like there's one where they get kind of more blown out and stuff. But it's like I really miss the clock. The clock is such a good dynamic for creating tension in the story. Like, oh, tick, 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 but we still have a possibility. You know, you can score 3 goals in a minute if you're super lucky. But when it was just, it just didn't
Plus,
work.
there were different twists on the table in the first half as well. Like the traitor. The traitor made things interesting.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't have anything like that this time.
Like I'm looking at the game. I'm trying to call out important things, but it was, hey, they had the ball and they do a cool thing, and then the other team has the ball,
Yeah.
and then they did a cool thing, and eventually the score is 5-2 and they lose. And the big takeaway from this first game was that Rin has better vision and better predictability of the field, and to the point where he's even controlling it, and he mocks Isagi for not understanding how eyes work, which is Isagi's clue to unlock his next level of power.
Mm-hmm.
Then who gets stolen?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any other key points through the game.
Nope.
Okay. They take Baka. Oh, I guess I should introduce the concept of this round. We talked about it in the first one. It starts as a 3-on-3 match, but every time you lose, you get a player taken from your team that goes to the other team. If you get down to 2 and you lose, one person's going to get taken, the other person's going to get sent home. So this will continue to eliminate people, and you have to get up to 5 people to pass. Once you have 5 people on your team, you pass.
This is the slowest elimination I think I could ever envision.
Yeah.
But I do want to. I enjoy the concept of like they're an enemy one game, they're an ally the next game, or this ally suddenly become my enemy. I enjoyed that, and I kind of wish I wish the games had been faster. Like we could get through like 2 or 3 games an episode just to keep seeing random matchups and ups and downs and wins and losses as the teams keep changing. I thought that was just such a cool concept of like, hey, we have a speedster. Okay, now we have a speedster, and you have to reevaluate your entire team composition. And which happens here. They lose Baka, and they're like, we don't really have anyone who passes and dribbles well anymore. It's just me and Nagi who can do great first touches, and me who is really good at puzzles. I assume that is the power he has.
Basically.
Yep.
Yeah, so they lose Baka, who says, you better come back and win me back, Isagi. And he leaves with his new team.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen the psychology of how some players, when they wind up on a team with other players they really don't like, how that actually might turn into them not trying their best or doing something else to get picked by someone else. We have a little bit of a conversation about that in one of the games later, but it would have been cool to actually see it happen kind of the way we did with the Trader before.
Nagi and Issy kind of have a fight here because he's doing his wah, I lost. How unfair is my life that I can't beat everyone at soccer right away? And they're like, you know what? In this round, individual skills are more important. And it's like, guys, that has been what Blue Lock they won, but all right.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say in the first episode. Like, it's about individual skills.
So Borrow and one of the guys from Team Z, I forget his
Oh,
name.
this guy actually got a good backstory. Like, he actually, like, I don't know. I felt moved by this guy's story.
I did too.
Yeah.
Like they could have cut it out and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which one you were agreeing with, Jason. So he's with me, Jeremy. You're on your own.
Oh, no, I loved this guy. I thought it was great because it showed that just because Isagi leaves somebody behind or tramples on them, like up to now, what have we seen? We've seen like silhouettes leaving Blue Lock. And yeah, those silhouettes were really unhappy, but they're not really people that we knew. They were just faces on the field.
This is so bizarre because we are usually on the opposite ends of this. Because you talk all the time. Like I just felt like you're just pulling a string on my emotion, saying feel this emotion, and I felt like this character was literally here's my red shirt, here's my sad story. I'm poor. I'm a poor guy. And I'm here to lose. Feel bad.
Now I'm gonna go get beamed down to the planet.
It was so obvious. I was like, this is too much. Like, I don't even care.
Well, okay, so they did, to be fair, they did throw a little bit of a bone by saying, oh, we lost, but they didn't pick Bato because he's so selfish.
That's right.
And they're thinking,
and that's what I was curious about.
Are they going to not pick him as well because they don't want the selfish guy?
Yep.
I
wondered that as well.
But then it was like, I've been taking care of my family, and because my parents died, I was like, oh, he's not getting picked.
Yeah, no, they're not going to tell you the backstory of the character that's getting picked. That's for sure. But I understand where you're coming from. Where like the only reason to show you this backstory is to make you feel bad for the character, but I really didn't feel bad for any characters, and you're supposed to like. Yeah. This anime makes that a huge feature of it, where it's like, people are getting eliminated. You're never going to play soccer again. Well, what does that really matter? Like, does that really matter to these characters?
Stakes.
And apparently,
stakes. That's the biggest problem with sports anime. It's like,
no, they have stakes at lunch when after they score goals, they get steaks.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, they have to be really good.
But I loved his like little I don't know if it was a pack of cards or something, and his family had written all of the like encouraging statements on it.
Candy.
And I thought he was gonna throw that to Isagi. I thought he was gonna be like, here.
I thought it was like performance enhancing drugs or something that he had on him, and he was like, because of the way he was like holding onto it through his shorts and like. Yeah. He'd go to it every time something bad was happening. I was like, is he gonna pop a pill? Like what's going on? He's got drugs.
With all the tech in Blue Lock, I'm sure they would have sussed that out.
Okay, here's my issue, Jeremy. I absolutely agree that showing this guy's backstory and showing him lose is the right way to go. What they should have done, though, is set him up back in the first half and let it slow play. The fact that I don't know this guy's name, he's had maybe 5 minutes of screen time, and suddenly he's showing up with a backstory, and I'm like, oh, come on.
That's true. That's true.
Paint a target on his chest. He's going down.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. And I did kind of think it was funny that, he was the guy that was always stealing food off of Gagamaru or whatever his name is, like the tall guy. He was the one that was always stealing food off, and that was the only thing I knew him for. I remember calling him out as like, oh, these nameless, faceless characters like the one that steals food. And then the fact that his backstory actually justified that action was kind of cool, because I was like, oh, okay, that, it made sense why he was behaving that way. But yeah, I agree with you. It should have been done sooner.
I forgot he did that, and that is cool that those two things connect.
Yeah.
But I did not remember that at all. Okay, so they challenge him. Nagi actually challenges Baro right away, but they have to wait 24 hours after a game before they're allowed to challenge. And then when you do challenge, it's another 24 hours before you play. And so
I guess they heard your complaint about injuries, Jason.
Right?
Yeah.
But the day of there is Isagi training, and then this red shirt comes in, is like, me and you are the same. I'm totally not a red shirt. You're not totally not a main character. We're on equal footing here. Either
We're
one of us.
average Joes.
And he's pointing out if whatever team loses, neither of us are getting chosen. So this is an elimination round for us, not for them. They're playing to see what team they end up on. We're playing for elimination. But then the game starts, and it is time to talk about Barrow, who in this game and a little bit forward is the biggest ball hog ever. And he can shoot from super long range, but he is going to shoot. And there's a reason he lost his first game. So what do you guys think about Barrow?
I thought his arc is fantastic. And especially when he starts feeling, and I think this is one point I give to the anime that they did really well, is there's multiple characters that win the match, but they feel defeated. And I thought they portrayed that really well. But I like this, this arrogance, this, disregard for literally everyone else. Like main character syndrome to the max, right? But in this particular moment, he's very similar to how he was in the first half. But as the anime goes on, I really love his Vegeta villain arc that he goes through. It's pretty great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think one of the things that was really funny to me is the fact that we saw Barrow in the first half as he was just completely stomping Team Z, right? Mm-hmm. But we didn't really see him again after that. But we do know that they lost when facing Nagi and Rio, right? Because Nagi and Rio and the Speedster didn't lose anything until they went against Team Z, right? And so Barrow has lost once, for sure. I don't know if he lost any of the others, but I know he lost that one. And so that's got to be a chip on his shoulder as the king, right? But he can blame it on his team, right? And so then when we get to this one, we know that he lost in the 3-man, but, with his kind of personality, he's blaming it on his team. And so then now it's the two of them. So when he loses again, what does he do? He blames it on the team. He blames it on the kid. If you would have passed the ball to me, we would have. Well, he probably was right that time, but still, he blamed it on the team, and that doesn't get to continue happening. Once he starts seeing that their team is winning and it's not because of him, but because of someone else, and that person's actually using him, just watching the frustration and humiliation play across him is really good, because we get like this chip on his shoulder that starts with these losses before, but it just magnifies and it becomes this horrible burden where we get like a flash forward at one point where he's so depressed. And I love this flash forward because, Barrow's got like the pompadour. He's so overconfident, calls himself the king all the time, calls everybody else donkeys, which I'm guessing just means ass, right? But I'm not sure. Maybe it has some other kind of derogatory meaning coming from him. But he looks down on people so much. And then the worst possible thing is to be used by someone else, right? If you're a king. And so when that happens, it's so frustrating and humiliating for him that he actually sees himself in the future in a dark apartment with his pompadour haircut gone. It's gone in the future. And he's like eating, I don't know, it looked like he was eating like store-bought ramen or something, watching TV while everybody else was having fun playing soccer, and he couldn't anymore. And seeing how he dealt with that and the kind of character that he became when he followed through his arc, that was really engaging. This was my favorite character. They did a fantastic job with Barrow. He didn't become, a supporting character so much as a contradicting character. He helped you only because it was also in his interest. And that is what I wanted from all the characters. I didn't want to see like, hey, I'm helping you because I genuinely want to see you succeed. That's not what I thought this was going to be. I thought this was going to be like every man for himself. And these connections that would form would be far more tenuous than they really were. And so Barrow was like, he was perfect for what I came to this anime for.
I loved that moment where he passes to Isagi, and it's the first time he's passed since he's been at Blue Lock. And the look of absolute defeat. And like, it's fantastic. I know. And then later
He even
matter.
calls it out later, and he's like, "I didn't pass you because I wanted to. I passed you because you commanded me to." Like with the look, like as a king. Oh man.
Yeah, right.
Just to add on, because we all agreed he was the best character of this half. But one of the things I also loved was the extra character traits and flaws they gave him outside of soccer. And everybody has those a little bit, like Shigiri has to do his hair, and Nagi's lazy. But the fact that this guy was super meticulous with the cleanliness, it's a good joke, but it also kind of builds on what kind of person he is. There's a reason he has to play soccer exactly his way. He's almost OCD in everything he does. Everything has to
must be
fit.
ordered.
Yeah, in the way he has framed it, so that fed into his soccer personality, and then came back into his personal situation, which again made great jokes, and they saw him as Maid Barrow, which is
Yeah, I love that.
It's a great extra time joke. But it made him feel more fleshed out than everyone. Like Nagi's just lazy, and Shigiri's just a guy who loves doing his hair.
Yeah.
But Barbaro is this well-developed, I do things my way, and that is who I am, and then learns to keep going and adapt to everyone while keeping that in place, which was really cool to see. So, best character.
I will say the one missed opportunity here, when he gets defeated and then he comes back and he says it's my villain arc, and then he calls himself king. I mean, come on. If he's villain, he's coming back up from, say, the depths of hell. That's Demon King.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
That would have been good.
That
would have been good.
Maybe in his next Evolution Awakening perforation.
Probably. I mean, he's got black and red as his lightning colors now, and they all have their own little.
Was his soccer team called the Kings? Because when they that's where he got the word king.
Yeah, because he's like, I am the team. Like, I am king.
So I saw that. I was like, oh, maybe his name actually is King. And then I saw it on all the other kids' shirt. I'm like, that idiot just saw King on their shirt and was like, that's me.
Yeah.
Literal. Oh, boy. Yep. Okay. So their game is happening. His range has grown. Literally, my notes are like, game starts. His range has gotten better. Nagi gets the ball. His one touch has gotten better. He scores. It's 1-1 now. That's 22 episodes of this anime.
Yeah.
Or not Yeah. Anyway, the next couple episodes are just like it's a bit rough.
Okay, I got to ask something then, because I know you've watched more sports anime. So isn't that just normal? If you're dealing with a sports are numbers going up on both sides. That's how tension's often created. Is this not par for the course for a sports anime?
I think, and again, I'm not much of a sports anime guy, but I think Troy mentioned earlier. Does it have to do with the clock? Is it the clock that makes
I
the
think
tension?
the clock works better, but like I've mentioned haiku in our last episode, the bar of sports anime, and volleyball is not a clock sport; it is a point sport, but it also has a you have to win by 2 rule in it, which is which definitely helped, because it wasn't like, hey, I'm at 4 and you're at 4, next point wins. It's, oh, I'm at 4, we're at 4. This game's really just getting started. So there is that back and forth, but every time one team suddenly has a 1-point lead, they're almost at the end of the game, and you have to fight back. Now you've got to go
3 points.
3 points in a row to end this game. That adds a lot of extra dramatic tension. So I think in Haiku that helped it. The fact that volleyball has that little extra rule. Basketball's a clock. I don't like baseball at all. In Kaijo, you fall off the thing when you get hit in the face with a butt. So
it sounds like the issue is really just that there aren't enough ways to be surprised, and so the only way that's being used is the numbers. And like you said, the clock was the other option. Are there other options you can think of that they could have done where they could have added like
So I think it boils down to the fact that it's only 5 points, so it's very limited. They don't have a lot of wiggle room. They can't have someone get a huge lead because that would already be at the end of the game. And I remember from Haikyuu, they don't even go over every single point. They just sometimes would be like, okay, now it's at this. And even when the team's like, we've been doing bad the past couple things, we still got a point or two. Because in volleyball, there's a lot of randomness, and you know, even when you're doing bad, you're still going to get a few points just because something went your way, but it doesn't mean it was a point that mattered. So yeah, I definitely think it's it's only 5 points. I think that hurts it the most. But it did feel a little less creative than what I'm used to seeing in the way they handle it. It just mostly felt, I get one, you get one, especially every single one, because again, there's only a maximum of 10, had to almost always come with a evolution or I figured out a new chemical reaction.
Right.
New record.
I don't ever want to hear chemical reaction.
I know.
Again.
Or devour you.
I will devour you.
That got a little weird.
1 point. Oh, he's devouring me. 1 point. Yeah,
So maybe if Ego came up with more interesting rules instead of just like, hey, 5 point win. Because he's making it up, right? He made up how you would win this. So he could have made it more interesting.
It's weird. I find it weird you're attributing it to Ego, where I'm thinking like the writers, like,
oh yeah,
you really pointed yourself into a corner and gave yourself very minimal time to be creative with this format because you gave it a 5 point rule. Like for Ego's plan, I think it works great, but for the storytelling and building suspense, I think the writers really tied their hands behind their back with what they set up.
Yeah,
I guess what I mean is the writers could have written that Ego made something better, not necessarily that it would have been better for Ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, let's see. Okay, so yeah, we see the red shirt's backstory. He was poor.
And so he's going to disappear now because we know too much about him.
It's 4-4, and he ends up with the ball, and instead of passing, he decides he's going to score, and he goes for a direct shot again. Or this is Isagi's signature move, and he's going to steal it, and he misses. And then
he's pissed because Isagi just got done stealing his get behind you move, and he scored with it. So he's like, I'm going to get Isagi back by taking his ability and scoring.
Which Isagi stole that was after good.
He stole. No, it doesn't. No, well, Isagi does his move again. This is only the second game. We have way more to get through.
Yeah,
this is a red shirt.
Well, but I do think that, like, of the entire match between these two teams, I think this was actually one of the things I enjoyed, was the fact that this character tried to do what the main character does, but he's not a main character. So he shows us what happens when somebody who's not a main character tries to do something like this, and that is fail. So like everybody else in the soccer game, you know? So it was a moment to see all the people that are failing in Blue Lock.
Also, one skill was a lot easier to steal than the other. Like,
it's true.
Isagi had a lot of practice with that shot, especially against the Blue Lock man in the beginning of the second phase. Whereas learning to read the eye movement, if you've been playing soccer a while, and you probably could adapt to that pretty quick once you realize, oh, I could just watch their eyes. It's not that hard to do. Okay.
This is Isagi, though. You know, he's got to master off the ball movement.
Off the ball movement. My new off the ball movement powers. That's what everyone else has been doing, man. What do you mean powers?
Yeah.
Especially your one touch power.
Yes.
Anyway, Isagi scores. It's 5-4. They win. They pick Baro. I did think that was like, maybe they won't. Maybe because he really sucks. But yeah, they pick him. And the other guy is disqualified, and he goes home. And we get a quick flashback that Ryo, Nagi's best friend, has joined forces with Chigiri and
Kusanagi.
Ichigo.
Yeah, Ichigo. Yeah.
Kunigami?
Kusanagi, I think.
Kusanagi?
I think so, yeah.
I swear he's, for the English dub, that's got to be the same voice actor as Piccolo.
Kunigami. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah, I got it right.
You did get it right.
There's no way it's Piccolo.
It sounds so similar.
That means he's Vegeta.
Oh,
Oh,
Baro's Vegeta.
No, voice actor.
No. I gotta say, I went and I listened to a few of the scenes, not whole episodes, but some scenes in dub, because I wanted to hear what Tokamaki sounded like screaming. Yes, it was great. But so many of the other characters, like in dub, it really seemed like they were being voiced by the same exact person. Like Baro and Kunigami sounded like the same person to me. Well, no, not Baro. Other characters did, like Kunigami and somebody else. But it just kept happening. And did it sound like that to you guys? Could you easily distinguish each of the characters? Okay. So in case anybody's wondering, they were saying yes with their heads.
Oh yeah, this is mostly an audio podcast.
Yeah.
Wow. How
Yes, I
many
could
years?
distinguish fairly
Okay.
easily.
Yes, sir.
I did not have a problem
Okay.
with their voice.
Thank you.
I'm actually super embarrassed by that.
You'd think we knew how to do this.
Right. Okay. Okay, so now they have to live with Baro. Him and Nagi don't get along. He's a clean freak. He wants the solo bed. Yada yada yada. They join him for training drills, where he does his very meticulous training drills. And
40 minutes, jeez.
40 minutes of warm ups, speed drills before he even starts actual practice. I didn't leave Ego on here. Do you guys want to say anything about Ego? He doesn't have many scenes.
Which is sad because he was one of the better characters in the first half. He gets a couple moments here where he's talking with the groups that I really liked. Just because I like I like hating his philosophy. And unfortunately, in the arena of sports, like what he says is true, as far as being the best, because there's only one spot for the best, and everyone's going for it. But he didn't have any character growth or any arcs, so I'm not sure how relevant. I mean, the only really relevant thing to talk about is benefactors trying to shut down the program. But
in this scene is where he's talking to the board and he's like, "You guys make celebrities. I'm making a genius."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wish we could have gone in more with his philosophy. I actually agreed with everything he said about luck later, which we'll get into. I know you guys want to talk about that more, but
you're right. I think if they had shortened up the games, like maybe made it 3 points instead of 5, and then like scrunched in how many games they had in an episode, I think it just took too long. It just dragged.
They could have expanded the cast a little bit that way, so that it wasn't all focused on the same characters with the same powers that we would get bored with.
Right, it would have been cool because like the extra time kept showing the different teams uniting up, and I did keep wondering like, well, I wonder how that looks or what that would work, and it would have been kind of cool to see a little bit more of a tournament style where we get to see all the different tournaments,
or even getting some scenes of like the end of the matches between just two people on a team, and which ones of our known characters that maybe we like goes home.
Actually, come to think of it, this second selection would have been neat if the other teams that weren't currently playing got to watch from like a higher vantage behind glass.
I like that, especially since you have to wait for like 48 hours basically once you switch from one tier to another. So that would have given them something to do while they were waiting. That would have been really cool.
Yep. Strategizing.
All right, things that happen in this episode is that Isagi tries to have a meal with Baro, who basically blows him off, and he's like, "Hey man, if you play team ball, I really think that you would really optimize your potential." Like trying to make it about him, but like, hey, you're on a team now and you've lost because you haven't played as a team. And Baro's like, "Nope, don't care. Do it my way.
I'd rather die
I'd rather
Yeah.
die.
than pass
Hold
the
them
ball to anyone else.
Which is what makes it so much better when he actually does it instinctually.
Then we get some fan service with a giant bath scene for everybody.
Yeah.
And I just kept being like, man, everyone is so ripped. Which you would be playing as much
Yeah.
soccer as they are. I get it. Man, it was just like they were more and more ripped. And I just waited for
Yeah.
muscles to start sprouting muscles. And
Uh-huh.
but in the bath scene, they run into Chigiri, Kunigami, and Rio, and kind of catch up. Like, hey, you guys made it to this round. We should play each other. And Rio, he's been freaking out about Nagi abandoning him, and he wants revenge. He needs to show him. He's the jilted ex, very
Man,
much.
is he obsessive.
That's
Holy
right.
cow.
That's right. Chigiri and Kusanagi are both like pissed at Isagi for not waiting for them.
Kunigami.
Kunigami.
I don't think they're really pissed. They're more like, oh, I guess we're not good enough to be on your team. But they also
Oh, they
would've
feel
done-
slighted.
right. But
Yeah.
they do say would have done the same exact thing. Like they get it.
Mhm.
It's just ego, which is what they're going for, right? Is you need to have
Right.
your ego telling you I need to push. So yeah, they challenge each other and they decide to play. And also the team that Bakura is now on, no one will play them because they're the number one, and no one wants to lose to the number one team. So they're stuck in the final round. Then the game starts, and Chigiri is able to score right away, putting his team, the red team, up by 0-1. Guys, is your thoughts on the speedster Chigiri in this half?
I'm just waiting for his leg to bust.
I know, me too.
That
I'm like, come
sounds
on, you can't give
horrible.
me this foreshadowing without actually delivering.
Well, there's even a scene where he's like slow to get up, and Isagi's like, "Is it your leg? You okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I mean, and he just continues being the speedster. So it's like, oh man, you're stringing me along. If you
Yeah.
show a gun in the first half, it's got to be used by the second half.
That's right. That's what is it? Chekhov's gun. Yep.
That's it.
I honestly think, especially in a 3-on-3 format, or especially on a 2-on-2 format, this is the best player on the dang field. I don't care about your vision. If you can't catch him, you don't
Mhm.
matter. And there you don't have defenders to back you up and really they keep going like, hey, let's double team him. How? How did you get ahead of him? He was already running.
Yeah.
I just
Mhm.
saw your position. You were behind him a second ago. They messed up the spacing, I felt, a couple times, and I just felt like they did that to lower his skill and how much he would advance in a less defender mode that like they're playing.
Well, okay, so a couple caveats. The field was smaller than normal.
Right.
And a lot of times we didn't see where the third player was. So like there was this assumption that they might have been further back. Also, when you're if a defender is standing and then you've got the ball and you're coming at them, unless you are able to maneuver around them instantly, which it sometimes they gave that impression, that no matter how fast you are, that defender's going to hold you up until you can get around them. And then once you get around, then you can start sprinting again. So all those caveats can allow other players to get by and get in position. The other thing I didn't like about this is like the offsides was obviously not a rule. That's just
What is that?
offsides is when
Oh my
you
goodness! Wait! This is important. Nobody understands soccer offsides. Everyone, listen up. Jason's going to tell us how this works.
I have no idea.
if you are on the enemy side, this only counts if you're not on your own side.
Okay.
If you
And
pass
the field
ball,
is cut halfway in the middle, right?
right?
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, center line divides the two sides.
Okay.
If the player you're passing to is on the enemy side and there is no defenders between them and the goalie, that is an offsides pass.
Basically, it means you can't stand down on the enemy side waiting for the ball to come to you. You have to leave their area.
You have to be at least in line or allow that defender in between you and the goal.
There's a
How
similar
does that
rule in
benefit
hockey.
the game?
Huh?
How does that benefit the game? Is it just because it makes it harder to score? Because it gives them more of a chance to defend?
I guess. I'm not sure why the rules. I think it's more of a fairness rule, but I mean this goes all the way to nationals. I mean this is not or like worlds. Like this is not like a local rule. Now there's, depending on the ref, will depend on what how you can bend it. But if a defender is in between you and the goal, and your buddy passes, and then you get behind them, so there's nobody in between you and the goal, and you get the ball, normally that's not offsides. But you have to have the ref actually see the pass happen before you pass the defender. Because if they turn around and they see you pass the defender and there's no one between you and the goal, they might call you offsides.
So it only matters where you are at the origin of the pass, not at the destination of the pass. Interesting. Okay.
Correct.
Weird.
And that was not observed at all in any of these matches.
No. There were a lot of passes where it was just like, oh, hey, I'm right next to the goal. Give it to me.
Knowing a minimal about soccer, the thought I kept having is, this is soccer. This is really soccer. You have strikers. It's weird.
That's why I was like, this is barely a sports anime.
Well, I've never, ever watched even a single soccer game. So to me, this was soccer. It was very interesting.
Yeah, that was the end of the episode. I need to turn the page in my notes.
Also, the fact that 99% of all shots that are taken in this anime score against Blue Lock Man, who is a combination of all the
Yeah, not
those
a chance.
pros would have been denying at least 50, if not 80% of those shots.
Especially what we see with
not.
Yeah, especially what we see with the World 5 later. Like, if this is the level pros are at that are in other areas of the field, why would a goalie not be similar?
Right.
Yes.
Or any other. They're going to go play, like I said, they're going to go play a real team, and I'm like, you're going to die.
All strikers.
In the sports I know, that is a college football team thinking they can take on a professional football team. The best college football team is super slow compared to the worst professional football team. It's a completely different level. And only strikers going against already professional playing well-balanced team.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
now it's a fantasy anime.
But they're under 20.
Okay, so Barrow keeps losing the ball, refusing to pass, and they're basically just double teaming him, triple teaming him. He's not going to get rid of the ball, so why bother defending anyone else? And it's costing them. And so Isagi basically has to change his entire mentality. We keep seeing the puzzle breakdown, puzzle rebuilding of himself. That's him adapting. And he tells him, don't you get in my way. And starts calling him a donkey. And then we get to the scene where Barrow has to pass and realizes, oh, I passed. I did what he commanded of me, and I am a loser. I am here to serve him now. And it gets to 4-4 like it always does. Chigiri, he evolves. He can now do a first touch at super high speeds instead of having to slow down to receive. Cool. But Barrow, he decides, no, I'm not evolving that way. I'm not becoming a team player. I'm going to fight this character arc with tooth and nail. And he decides if he can't be the hero of the soccer field, he'll be the villain. He becomes this zigzagging monster who can get around anyone and score at will instead of this long range kicker like he was. And that's his, he wins the game with this new, still selfish, but part of a system game style.
They're able to make a chemical reaction now.
Yeah.
Troy's upset.
Mm-hmm.
We get Ego explaining like the need to lose and feel despair if you want to evolve. You can't just lose and be like, "Oh, I'll do my best next time." It's like, no, you need to be utterly defeated to push yourself to get beyond.
Yeah, this one
Stuff
kind of
like
hit a little close to home. I didn't like
Really?
this one. Well, I mean, I liked it because he's bright, but I also hated it because it was like, you know, it people making excuses so they could feel better about losing and staying mediocre. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, okay, there's truth to it. I didn't like the statement. They tell themselves it's about the pursuit of the dream rather than the dream. Basically overturning all the it's not the journey, it's not the destination, it's the journey, which is something I highly believe in a lot of ways. And he's like, "No, it's about the destination only."
Well, okay. So in most cases, I think you're right. But in what his context is, if you're going to be the best, that is the destination. That's not the journey.
I think Goku would disagree.
As he's doing push-ups in 100G.
Right, but Goku's whole thing is even when he finds the best and beats the best, he wants to keep going. He enjoys the journey of the quest rather every time he beats someone better than him or yeah, and I'm the
But-
best now. Well, I'm not satisfied with that. I want to keep going. I want a new best
Yeah.
to chase.
Goku isn't interested in being the best. He's interested in fighting.
Right,
And
he enjoys the journey, not the destination.
That wasn't the context. You're totally misrepresenting what I'm talking about.
Maybe I wasn't listening.
Can we just get
Okay.
on to the next boring game? And get
Yeah, they pick they win and they pick Tiguri for the team. And then Nagi tries to talk to his old best friend who's like, "You left me." He's like, "You suck now."
back again.
Stinking bug.
Okay, and then there's an important scene where Baro and Isugi eat a meal again, and this time Baro's like, what kind of soccer do you like to play?" Like, yeah, he's still a selfish player, but he's not really a selfish player. I actually thought you'd have a problem with this, Jeremy, because he's saying he's not, but he's totally team centered now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, kind of. What I saw it as is a respect. He didn't have respect for anybody else before because nobody could command him to do anything. But this is the first time that somebody has actually had such a presence on the field that he had to acknowledge another noble, so to speak, right? Like another king and be submissive to him. And so I kind of saw this as Baro is showing that he has a deeper well of dignity and confidence that actually is kind of befitting of a king, right? Like up to this point, we just see an arrogant jerk. But in this moment, you get a glimpse of him and you're like, okay, so you can gracefully handle defeat and actually learn something from it and come back, which I know we've already talked about Ego's desire, that was the purpose of this part of the lesson for him. But actually seeing him do that, not just in a selfish way on the field, but also in like, okay, even though we're off the ball right now, because we're eating dinner, I'm still playing and I'm still learning from you. And I'm going, in order to devour you, I have to know you. I have to actually figure out how you think and what kind of game you play, because that's his goal ultimately. So I kind of saw it as him still working to achieve that goal, but through understanding, not necessarily just observation on the field.
And I think the transformation here was before this game, he played soccer alone. Didn't matter how many people were on the field, he played alone. After this game, he sees not only the value, but also the opportunity that his teammates can provide him.
Yeah, you're right, because he did acknowledge during his conclusion of his arc, his evolution, Okay, I know. It's just there's just such a like melodrama to the terminology that's used here and to the visuals of Isagi like rebuilding himself with every new concept, even
I wonder when
no
they'll
matter how
ascend.
simple they are.
They
Yeah,
they know how to pass the ball. Rebuild myself completely.
rebuild myself. Exactly. How do I factor that in? And so like what you were saying with Baro is that he was prior to this moment, he was completely oblivious of the fact that the only reason he was able to make the cool plays he was making before is because everybody else passed the ball to him. So he had to acknowledge that. That was cool. Yeah.
We catch up with Bakura training with Rin, and we get a little bit more of his backstory. Basically, and they kind of spread this over a couple of episodes, but his backstory was I was a weird kid who loved soccer, and I listened to the monster in my head who told me what to do when I played soccer, and then everyone thought I was weird, so I wanted to go out and find someone else who either had a monster or was a monster who would understand me, because I'm so tired of playing soccer alone. And so he's been practicing with Rin. He's like, maybe it's Rin, not Isagi, who's the monster I need to follow.
So fickle.
And then Ren tells him something interesting. He's like, "You're looking for someone to play with, you're not satisfied or not good enough to be the striker alone."
Yeah, and it calls him out for not having an ego.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they exit,
and I figured out why every time you say Bakura, it takes me like 2 seconds to figure out who you're talking about. In the sub, it's Bachira.
it's probably Bachira in
Ch.
the English one too.
Yeah, it is. Bachida.
Oh, okay.
I have a accent.
That's what we'll call it.
Okay.
R's and L's are pronounced the same in Japanese. Same with B's and V's. So Rin is Rin, and then Bachida is Bachida, not Bachira.
Same Bakura, like the old Star Wars book.
Yeah, he's got K instead of Ch.
Bachita. Anyways.
This is why you listen to Baka Baka.
Yeah, I probably drive a lot of
Actually,
people crazy.
what's really funny about this conversation is they have the opposite conversation when they're talking about how they need to pronounce English words on the world stage.
Yes, I actually really love the English.
Am I doing it right?
3 day.
Oh, that was so good. Oh.
Okay. Isagi's waiting for them in the hallway, and he challenges them to the match. It's now time for the rematch. So Chigiri takes on Jubei, Baro takes on Aoshi, Nagi takes on Rin. So Isagi gets Bakura. That almost seems to never matter. I won't do it.
You can't make me.
Game starts.
They lose.
Game starts, game ends.
You are muted.
Yeah.
I was practicing how I say Bakura.
I'm practicing it incorrect just as soon.
Yes.
Won't sway me. Donkeys. Why do you think your intros were what they were?
I see what you did.
Yeah. Okay, no, so a lot happens in this game. More evolving. Rin is always one step ahead, but he can't account for Baro's selfishness, who steals a ball from his own teammate. And Isagi's like, okay, I can use that as long as we're unpredictable. He can't see stuff coming. Isagi does a back shot with his back heel when he does a feint. When he should have done a normal shot, that would be the right move, so he does the wrong move and he's able to score. He says he turns it into a 50-50 chance, and that way he could, because obviously that'd be dumb to do. And that tricks Rin. But when it looks like Isagi team is about to win, Bachira,
Hey!
he has his awakening. This is the moment where he's like, "Hey, which one is going to be my buddy?" And he's like, "But no, they're actually leaving me behind." And even
This was great symbolism.
Nagi does this great thing where he steals it from him and is like, "We're not going to pick you."
The way you're playing,
the way, you're not good enough. You realize that, right? And then he realizes, I'm going to get left behind. I'm going to not be able to go along and follow these monsters that I finally found. So he goes through this whole evolution of silencing his inner voice. We mostly already talked about it. And he selfishly, but good in Blue Lock, keeps the ball for himself, does crazy move, drops down on all fours, catches it on his neck, and then scorpion kicks it, and then spin jumps through a hold.
Yep.
But Isagi is able to predict this because he knows his friend so well, which Rin is not able to predict because, and I thought they were going to go into this, like, Isagi knows people. He cares about the people he's been playing with. He studies their person, or he gets to know their personality, and he can predict their movements based on that, where Rin is going completely on a, this is the right or wrong choice to make. Nope. They don't go into that. Anyway, Isagi blocks the shot, but it's a 50-50 ball that happens to accidentally land right in front of Rin, who had moved forward and kicked the goal and wins. But Rin considers this a loss to Isagi because he was not able to predict what Isagi was able to. So he tells the team's like, who we're going to take? And he's like, I'm deciding this time. Because last time he was like, I don't care. Just pick anyone.
Debate.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm picking this time and we're taking Isagi because he beat me that one time and I'm going to surpass him and I want him to watch me do it. I did feel like they should have picked Chigiri.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just me. I mean, Isagi's good, but you already have that skill set, so.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that Rin picked exactly what he is. Like, aren't you going to have two people that are like conflicting, trying to come up with different ideas for the field?
He's said multiple times throughout the anime that no one here makes his heart race. Or no one here is interesting to play against. And this is the first time someone has made it interesting for him. That's why he picked him.
But now he doesn't get to play against him because, he's on his team.
No, but he does. He
preserves him for future games. It's true about that.
Isagi says goodbye to his teammates. They're like, get out of here. He's like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, get out of here. Don't even look at us. Like,
you better catch up.
He joins his new team.
Yeah.
He meets all of them. Bachira is like, hey, now I'm even more excited to play with you, even though I don't need you. You're definitely character arced out here, but still in the story. Then they beat phase 2 and they go on to phase 3. And the first step of phase 3 is they have to play the World 5, the 5 best strikers in the world who have been paid millions of dollars of money to come and play these high school kids.
No, it was 10,000 apiece.
It was 100 million apiece.
Seriously,
maybe it was 100 million yen.
Yeah,
that must have been what it was. Okay,
I heard million. Oh, was it?
They didn't say dollars. They said.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's funner my way. So, what I'm trying to get to is when they play against these 5, Isagi does his move and get Bachira to pass to him, and Bachira passes over him to Rin. Rin had used Isagi making that move to get a better move and into a better position and score. And I do think that's the next phase of this competition. Now we are competing against each other to be the best. Whichever one of us is the best version of what we are is going to be the one getting the passes and scoring. So I do think he is still competing with Isagi, even though they are on the same team, just in a very different way.
That is true.
With what's coming up next, I don't know what that matters. Yeah, that all happened. Oh yeah, we play the top World 5. Again, they're just very much better versions of the characters we've seen. Super fast, super dribbling, super strong.
And they lose.
Which is done on purpose. The whole point is just to show them how far they still have to go so they don't think They're awesome, which does seem to be a major part of Ego's plan because he did that in phase 1 too. Like, I don't want you to think you're good. Please don't think you're good. I need you to realize you're trash. You're the best around you, but you are trash on the world stage. You need to keep climbing. But Ego has also been told that his program is being shut down. It's costing too much money. He hasn't produced results. He's like, well, you want results? I challenge your under 20 Japanese soccer team against my Blue Lock players, and my team will become the under 20 team of just strikers if we win. And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. And so he calls all the remaining teams together once all second phase is done. So we see everyone who survived. Rio and his team's there. Nagi's team is there. Chigiri's there. A bunch of new characters show up. Kunigami is gone.
Yeah.
The Betrayer guy is gone. The Krillin guy is there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
And one dude who hurt himself.
Yeah.
One guy hurt himself. The Bakugo from
Raichi.
Right.
Raichi, he survived with the
big
giant
Gakmaru
guy.
made it too.
Yeah. They're on the team together. Bang's guy's back. But then they're told, hey, in 3 weeks we're taking on the U20. So I don't know if they're all going to play against each other to get a spot on this other team, or if they're just going to all be the team. I don't know.
We'll never know.
Yeah, there's 35 of them, so that's going to be interesting. But I'm not watching.
How many strikers are on a soccer team, Jason? And I mean including the bench.
In professional, I'm unsure because you usually have.
How about on the field? Is the striker just one position on the field?
Well, a striker is usually going to be a forward of some kind. So you usually have a left and right forward, and then you have a center forward.
So you would need 3 strikers for your World Cup team, plus some backups.
But your center striker is your star.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying there's a ton of talent he's developing here. It seems like it's going to be the stupidest thing if he's like, okay, I don't need any of you but the one guy who comes out on top because injuries never happen. I know we've already kind of touched on this. But also there's no other positions they could fill, and I still have issues with Blue Lock. But
so it looks like the most common setup is 4-4-2, 2 being 2 strikers, 2 forwards.
Okay. Well, but I assume they got to have at least 2 on the bench for resting. Do you rest in soccer? Is there a bench?
Yeah.
Because
like on throw-ins, you'll get
substitutions.
Substitutions a lot.
Okay. It seems insane to only want 1 striker. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's the end of our review of Blue Lock. Unless you guys have any other thoughts.
Nope.
Let's go to final score.
I think the last thought I want to say is that this ending did not bode well for an end to season 1 because I just don't have these games were just so monotonous and it got boring near the end. I didn't really feel like, oh, I'm waiting for season 2. Like if season 2 comes out anytime soon, I don't know if I'm going to watch it.
I'm not. But that's mainly just because it to me, I know it's not a sports anime to you necessarily, but it is to me, and it's not that engaging.
I think it'll be fun to look at some of the plot points, but yeah, this is a wiki for me. I'm going to look at the wiki and see, because it was really cool to Kunigami being gone. Like you're like, here comes Kunigami, and he's not there, and the anime's like, yeah, we cut him. And the fact that Isagi's team lost to Rin in a sports anime is a subversion, and they do have some fun, unexpected twist in the story. And I enjoyed the plot points of this anime. I don't want to watch it to get there, so I will read it in a wiki like a jerk, and please don't judge me.
Yeah. Well, I do think that there were 2 other things that we could still touch on. One of them was the statistical probability and how Ego pointed that out as an explanation for luck.
Luck.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jason, didn't you want to talk about luck?
Oh,
it-
just I found it super interesting that the way he explained it, and I think I've heard it explained similarly, but that there's really no such thing as luck. It's just, uh, are you able to position yourself in a way to benefit from chance or happenstance or coincidence? And he made the direct comparison that, luck is kind of the luck and disc luck, being unlucky, is kind of two sides of the same coin. Like, if you get crapped on by a bird, I mean, that's pretty lucky. Right? But if you look up, you'll see birds, up on power lines. And so, like, if you put yourself under them, you're gonna get crapped on. So, like, you know, wherever you put yourself, it's on you to read the situation to best benefit from random events.
The reason he's explaining all this is because when Isagi blocked that last shot and it fell to Rin, he points out when the shot was blocked, everyone stopped, not sure what would happen with the ball and waiting to decide. Rin kept going because there was a chance that ball would go over to him and he wanted to be ready for it. So yes, it was luck that the ball went to him, but he's the only one who put himself in a position to benefit from whatever for one of the possible outcomes that could happen.
Yeah.
So you could call it tenacity as much as you could call it luck, because everybody else just kind of gave up. They believed that the play had been made and it was done, whereas Rin was like, "Oh, the play might not be done yet, and I'm gonna will that it's, I still have an opportunity to change things." But to me, this read like statistical probability in game logic, right? Like if you know how many cards of each type are in a deck, then you know the probability of each pull. So what may look like luck is actually calculated, and the same thing for like any other game. So I did like that. I love it when they bring like game logic and statistical probability into any kind of storytelling, and as like, this is something that you have to be aware of too. That is really cool.
See, even before they explained it, I got it because it's a big thing in basketball with rebounds. When anyone shoots, no matter how accurate they are, you do okay, I turn around, I block out my guy, and I get into a position to rebound. You have no idea if the ball is going to bounce to you, but when the ball does bounce to you, if you're one of the people who've gotten in position, you're one of the people who are able to benefit from that. So yeah, when they started talking about luck, I was like, oh yeah, because he was ready for a random occurrence. And then they started talking about pigeon poop, and I was like, all right, yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah,
that's one way.
Yep. The only other thing that I wanted to mention was just if you should watch the sub, just the World 5 like when they introduce themselves, and I think it's just a bunch of Japanese voice actors that are trying to portray themselves as if they're speaking English without an accent, and it's just the funniest thing. I love it. It is really, really entertaining.
That part when they're talking about the language difference did not work in the English dub because they were like, oh, I can't understand them with their accent because they're all speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And of course, it was really funny too because when the English speakers were speaking, you would see the katakana on the bottom. But then because it was English sub as well, it would then translate the katakana. So I'm hearing it and reading it and seeing the katakana. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yep. Sub is kind of similar that way too, because like all the time I'm seeing my text and then now there's katakana underneath. Yep.
All right, Jamie, we're going to do our final reviews. Your anime pick. What do you give it?
The first half of it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed where they went with that. But I had my nitpicks, and I think in the second half, all in all, it kind of got a little bit farther from what I was looking for, farther from the mark. I think if you're coming to this and you like soccer, you like sports anime, you might find something that you enjoy here, but it is kind of grindy, and it doesn't really seem as innovative as it portrays itself to be with the scenario that's presented. So I'm going to give it a 3. It's just kind of a middle of the road meh for me.
All right, Jason, how about you?
I'm very similar mind. Again, the first half I was impressed with. I didn't think I enjoyed as much as I did. But then they just kind of kept doing the same thing, and the games were very similar. Like you had some decent plot points, but like this whole idea that I'm going to evolve, and then I'm going to evolve again, and then I'm going to devour that skill so I can evolve again. It's like it, it got monotonous. And like you said it really well, Jeremy. It was grindy, and they did not stick the landing. The cliffhanger was not great. And normally, like I'd give this side a 3, and then maybe because I gave the other one a 4, I'd give the whole thing a 4. This time, because the ending didn't stick, I'm just gonna give the whole thing a 3 as well. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't enjoy myself.
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna have a bunch of Super Saiyan levels, stretch them out. Like, don't have them all one after another in the same season.
I am really close to a 2, but I'm gonna go a 3. All my complaints, I think I've laid out, but I do want to call out the unpredictable endings and not knowing who's gonna win. The format of take a player, give a player for the wins and losses means there's room for losing, so you never know for sure which way it's gonna go, and that twist at the end of the main character losing and then being taken to the championship team feels a little dirty, but it's also unexpected and a good twist. So there's really good concepts in this one. So I'm not going to lower it to a 2, even though I wasn't super entertained through the middle of some of the matches. Some of the awakenings are cool. Some of the characters I like, some of them I don't. It's a very middle of the road anime for me. Watch Haiku.
I think I might take you up on that. Actually, no, I was thinking of the butt one.
No, yeah, you'd like the butt one. You wouldn't like the volleyball one. I want you to, but you won't. Yeah, our next anime is Spy Family Part 2. And then if you have any thoughts on Blue Lock, please let us know. You can talk about the whole thing now. You can even probably spoil the future. Don't do that. Other people read the comments. Send on our website, theanimebakaclub.com. That comes straight to us. No one else is going to see that. Spoil all you want. But on Twitter at Baka Podcast, please don't spoil it. Or leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. Like, favorite, subscribe. Do all the bell things. I don't actually care. Based on how many people watched our part 1 video, the 5 of you who are still here, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Your call to action was really great, by the way. Nice work.
Yeah. The hero's call to action is what it is. They have to refuse it first, Jason. That's part of it.
Wasn't aware.
I think it's time for us to say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
Numbness like a ginger.
Sayonara.